Any other unfinished business?
I do, Mr. Chairman. Last week, Commissioner Wabi brought up a question about a warrant or an invoice for Rupp, Anderson, Squires, and Waldsberger, if I'm saying that properly, for $1,788.44. And I don't know that we really answered your question or that your question really got answered, Commissioner Wabi. So I just want to give you just a bit of background about that warrant. I didn't have my documents with me that day, but I do today. There was an April 10th email from Michael Plant to Mr. Anderson. He's the attorney that is billing us for nearly $1,800. Michael said, my budget allows for a professional service fee of $5,000. However, I was informed that $200 of that budget has already been utilized. Any expenditure over that amount would need prior authorization. The next day, Mr. Anderson emailed Mr. Plant. He said, I'll try to keep it simple but make it look formal. I believe I've dealt with everything you wanted covered and a little more. So attached, please find a proposed retainer in Word format. That way, if you want to change anything, you can feel free to do so. I haven't signed it yet in case you want to change anything. Later on, Mr. Plant stated to Mr. Anderson in an email, in speaking with the county attorney's office, it is jointly believed that an outside investigator is needed to handle this issue as the complainant has made claims and allegations against individuals in the administrator and attorney's office. And so then on April 14th, Mr. Plant emailed Mr. Anderson and indicated he intended to send an email to 2 commissioners who are not associated with this investigation addressing the retainer. Commissioner Wabi, you and Commissioner Harms received an email that said recently, this is what Mr. Plant said to you in an email, recently Wabasha County received what it perceives to be a complaint that could fall under the county's personnel policies. Normally such a complaint would be reviewed by county officials. However, due to extenuating circumstances, I will be seeking the input of Scott Anderson from Rupp, Anderson, Squires, and Waldsberger. I plan entering into a retainer agreement which should not exceed my board authorized budget allotment tomorrow. I provide you this information as a courtesy. I will also ask that this information be handled in a confidential manner until it has reached its conclusion. Then Mr. Anderson wrote in an email back to Mr. Plant, but in terms of whether this is indeed a complaint, I believe we need to err on the side of liberally construing it, at least for now. One of the things I will want to determine at the outset in my initial communications with Ms. Russian is if this is meant to be a formal complaint. Rest assured, I will approach that issue appropriately. I'll come back to that point. So then on April 30th, Mr. Anderson, on page 2 of his report, I guess you'd call it, he says, my initial review of the April 8th email also led me to question whether any complaint was actually being made. And then on page 3 of his report, he says, my conclusion, broadly speaking, is that no further investigation is activity is warranted. More specifically, no complaint was intended to be lodged by Commissioner Russian. And so, Commissioner Wabi, I guess with whatever correspondence you had back with Mr. Plant, you likely gave him some sort of approval to spend that money. Mr. Springer, I wanted to circle back with you. I got cut off last week. I stated publicly I did not file a complaint, and here in Mr. Anderson's own words, he said that he had found that no complaint intended to be lodged. I'm sad that taxpayers are going to spend $1,800 for something that could have been easily settled by just asking me outright, do you wish to have this investigated or are you filing a complaint? That was an opportunity I was not given. I certainly would have saved the taxpayers that money. But Mr. Wabi, or Commissioner Wabi, I guess, you were in the loop far before I was about that there was going to be an investigation and that it was going to cost money. So I guess, you know, I don't know if you feel that you had enough information to give affirmation to spending that money or not, but I guess that's between you and Mr. Plant. I just wanted to set the record straight what my role was in this. And as you can see, I didn't have a role, nor did I file a complaint, nor am I responsible for the nearly $1,800 in legal fees.